I don't know. You know, one of the most beautiful pictures in the aspect of this picture, something that you don't notice, but the foremost uh, tower in the, not the dome, but the rooftop, in the corner, there is a tricolor flag, the red, white, and green.
Yeah.
And to have on the Hungarian parliament, this was the square, almost the window in the bottom, right next to your head, was where there was about 100 plus thousand people on 23rd or 24th of October 1956, the first day of the revolution. And I was right there, just above your head. And over the years, I've been trying to pay back. But why am I saying the flag on the Hungarian parliament? But because we had a damn Russian red star on top of the Hungarian parliament. That was so hurtful, so painful to see, where your individual country is trampled upon. They never, ever ended the war, Second World War, and they were occupying Hungary and none other, with hundreds plus thousand troops in the country, 2,000 tanks, and they threw everything against Budapest on November the 4th, just a day or two after the Suez Canal attack. I think it was on 3rd of November 56, when the world attention was focused on Suez Canal.
Yeah, in Egypt.
And I was a second-year medical student, and it, you know, all I did was try to help during the revolution the patients that were there, because as a second-year medical student, you don't know anything. Anyway, I have now, oh yes, this is an incredible picture, and you may notice the red circle. That was me. I remember that day.
When was this picture taken?
It was between November the November the 4th, when the Russians came back, and they had an attack like the 25th of October. And for a while, it looked like the Russians were losing, we were winning, and they had a political discussion with the government. You had to be, and they captured the prime minister, the minister of defense, and ended up executing them. That's how much you can trust the Russians. You know, it should be a lesson, you know, for as long as you live. If you look at the picture, you can tell, you see, that's Stalin's head, where the communist-led marches were uh, picture of statue of Stalin, and he was loved about as much as the picture shows, and there was no love lost. And what you don't notice is that above my head and behind it, actually there is a tank. The guy is sitting on top of the tank, a little bit further away, and the hat I have probably saved me, because when the guy aimed for my head in city fighting, I was just trying to cross a road and looking out from behind a pillar and pulled the trigger. Fortunately, not squeezed the trigger. And just right next to and the name of that hat is Homolostesser. That means in sort of Germanesque, Stesser, I think it's hat. And Homola was the man's name who had a model, and nobody else has a hat like I had. And that was a sort of sign of elegance of having a hat like that. Anyway,
And
that
lives
was
with you.
Yes, that is in the Wikipedia page about me. It's interesting tidbits of information. Some of it accurate, some of it not bad enough to badly need correction.
So, what
But
happened after this day? Where did you go?
I was at home late at night, and I would, like this day, you went where the action was in a revolution. But the day basically started with going to the medical school and see if they needed you to help, because there were patients in the clinics, and the major destruction has not happened yet. This would be about 28th of October, and still is some time away from the big Russian invasion. And the attack on Suez Canal gave the sort of opportunity for the Russians. And they will move when the opportunity raises its ugly head. And the world's attention was on Suez, and they unleashed 2,000 tanks. I mean, there was a tank almost in virtually every street. And not really, but then they scattered around, and wherever the fighting was, they would show up.
So, after this period of time, there had been about 2,000, more than 2,500 Hungarians who were killed during this revolution, and lots of Hungarians have been refugees in Austria. So, what did you do in this period of time?
Well, the day must have been 25th of November, because the secret police was totally disorganized. And it took them about 2-3 weeks to start. The Russians, crushed the revolution. I mean, just bombarded the city unbelievably. And I was, as usual, on November the 4th, when the Russian attack came, a friend of mine came up But prior to that, I would be going into the clinics. That's what they were called. And one day, for example, they said the patients run out of sugar. So they gave me a revolutionary council authorization to bring a truckload of sugar. I had no idea where the sugar plants were. But the guy who was a truck driver and one other guy came with us. We had no weapons, but we went to the sugar plant and I was authorized to ask them for a truckload of sugar. It didn't say how many bags and how many big sacks, but they loaded up a truck. Then we drove back to the clinics and unloaded the truck so that patients had sugar for as long as that sugar lasted. And that would be one example. But as a second-year medical student, you are not much help to anybody because you learn about physiology and physics and chemistry and anatomy, but that's about it, and I learned about life. I learned about not debating and arguing, but when you have a job to do, I got a truckload of sugar and I made sure every drop of sugar was dropped for the purpose it was intended. So that was really the function that day. But after the Russians came back and attacked and arrested the government, and they dragged them, I don't know, before they executed them, it was like a year later, and, mocked, trials, and, you can hear the recording of Imre Nagy, the prime ministers, on the role of the last word before the sentencing, and these were nationalists, these were not criminals, they were executed. I think the failure of the system, proof of the pudding is that from 45, when the Russians came in January, robbing, till 1991, when they left, in that time, it's almost 50 years, they could not sell the idea of communism, socialism. They found that there were only about 4 or 5%, 3 to 5% true communists. And the others are saying the same thing. And how do you tell the true communists from a fake communist? You cannot. And that's, when you are an extremist, you're an extremist. It is no good to be an extremist.
So London, Liverpool was the second station in the journey of your life.